Hi guys, it's Blackie for Shaman's Forge Bushcraft. Okay, percussion revolvers part 2. Why are we doing this inside? If you listen, you can probably hear the wind howling right now. We've got gusts of 60 miles an hour and it's raining and just nasty cold weather. And I wanted to get this video on put together for you, so we're doing it indoors. But this needs to be kind of a technical one as well. In the first video we talked about kind of the history of the guns. Now we're going to get down to the nuts and bolts of what makes the percussion revolvers work today. There are two distinct types of revolvers that are the bulk of the guns you're going to find, and that's going to be the Remington and the Colt. Now the Colt, just a second, the Colt is the design like this that I showed you, and I called it a Griswold and Gunson, brass frame, Confederate type revolver. But this design is a Colt design. Now how can you tell? It's very simple. There is no top strap on top of the cylinder, and the sight is right here in the back of the trigger, back of the hammer, excuse me. And so that's how you can tell that this gun is a Colt design. Now, also the Colts come apart into three major components. You have a wedge right here in front of the cylinder. This wedge is pulled out, and then the barrel comes off, makes it easy to clean it. And then the cylinder comes off, makes it easy to clean it. And then this is the trigger group, easy to clean. And the base pin here is easy to grease then. Now, goes apart easy, comes apart easy. The guns are very, very reliable, very, very tough. And the vast majority of the guns you're going to find out there available are either going to be a Colt or a Remington. Now, the Remington. The Remingtons are solid frame, like our modern revolver. They have a loading lever underneath, like the Colt does. They have a base pin right here. And how you can really tell is that whenever you cock it, the rear side is in part of the frame up here, like a modern service revolver. And when you drop the lever and grab the base pin and slide it forward, the cylinder will come out very easily if you put it on half cock. And that's how you take the cylinder out. These guns are the ones I recommend for a starting gun because they're more like our modern firearms. And if you've been shooting modern handguns, this will be a little easier for you to understand, get used to, and etc. than the Colt would because of this solid top strap and this fixed rear sight. The Colt rear sight is the hammer nose, and that can take a little bit of adjustment to learn how to shoot that accurately. But that's, and plus the advantage to this gun is you can get those interchangeable cylinders I spoke of and turn this into a 45 Colt or a 45 ACP in addition to being a black powder revolver. So you put the cylinder back in from that far side just like this. Rotate it just a little bit so it picks up the hand. Slide the base pin, close, and you're good to go. Okay? Now, for the rest of this video series, we're not going to deal with Colts a lot, except maybe I need to say this. This design of these three pieces, called the open top or percussion model, kind of hit a evolutionary dead end. The way the gun is put together was a little weak. Not for what we're doing, but as the guns became more powerful, this not connected up here to the base pin was not as strong as, say, a Remington. So Colt, when they got the chance due to patents expiring, allowing them to do it, they brought out a solid frame revolver. This one is a Colt 1873 Peacemaker. This is the child of the percussion Colt. Many of these parts interchange from the percussion gun over to this. Grips, grips, internal lock works, etc. But it's a modernization of this design and bringing it up, making it tougher, stronger, more reliable, and more enduring in the environment. So therefore, the Remington, which already had the fixed frame, had an evolutionary jump on the Colt. So let's talk about, there we go, how we load these things. Now, in a nutshell, this cylinder is basically 6 cartridges made all one piece. The hole you see in the front of the cylinder, where the bullet goes, is for the individual powder charges and ball to be loaded from the front of the cylinder into these holes right here. It is in essence a modern cartridge. Think of it like 6 modern cartridges sitting together, because the percussion cap on the back is the primer, just like the base of a modern cartridge. The body of it holds the powder and holds with tension the bullet so it doesn't fall out, just like the modern brass. And then finally, the ball or bullet or conical ball that went into the head of this, into the front of the chamber, acts like our modern bullet. That's where they got the idea from. This became this. Okay? So, how we load it in the percussion area and etc. There were several ways. Military application used pre-made cartridges, and we can do that today. So for loading it, you have several options. The first being a powder flask. Now this is a cylinder. You can get them out of metal, plastic, historic, or modern. And they have a measure up here, this tube, that you put your finger over, push open the gate with your thumb, turn it upside down, let the powder fill up that tube, let go of the gate, and when you stand it up, this tube should be full of powder. Now, you take the gun, put it on half-top so the cylinder turns. You would then, and there's nothing here, don't worry, pour the powder directly into the chamber. You would then either put a bullet in or grease wad in. We'll get to that, and now's a good time. To seal the chamber and to generate lubrication for the bullet, many of the guys today use what's called wonder wads, and that's these. And I'm going to give you an up close here in a minute of a picture of all of it together. But these little felt wads are what go in next. So I pour my powder in, and I'm going to take the wad and put in, and then I'm going to take the bullet and set it there, and I'm going to rotate it up underneath this built-in loading lever, because in here there's a ram that goes down and pushes it down into the cylinder like that. That's how I load it. Instead of using our modern loading presses to assemble a cartridge, the gun in essence came with its own loading press, so I could load each one of the chambers. Now once the chambers are loaded, then I go to the back of it and I put the primers on. Primers on the percussion guns are called caps or percussion caps, and they're sold by many different companies. They come in these little tins, and I'll give you a good close-up of that in a minute. But they're simply a little cup. Remember when you were a kid and you played with those cap guns? Some of you don't, but old fogies will. But it went pow, 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 pow. All that is a percussion cap pellet, a fulminate of mercury inside this little cup. And that cup fits onto that nipple in the back, like that. Now, you always load, in a 6-cylinder gun, you load 5. Then you take the empty one and rotate it underneath the hammer, so that when you let the hammer down, it's on the empty chamber. That's safe. That way there's nothing there should this be hit or dropped or whatever. There's nothing in line that will make it fire. Okay? Now, whenever it is loaded, when you cock the hammer, the cylinder will rotate. The chamber with a live percussion cap and charge will come up in line with the barrel. Upon firing, bang, that will go out. Upon cocking again, the cylinder will rotate to another chamber, and usually the spent percussion cap will fall out this side. In a Remington, Colts sometimes jam up the action, but that you'll learn about that. So it's not that difficult to load it with loose powder, wad, percussion cap, and ball. But in the military application of this, they didn't do that. Oh, lubrication. A lot of times they have boar butter or grease or something they put over the chambers to keep the barrel lubricated and keep it from fouling up, which means get caked up with the gun residue and does not want to shoot accurately. However, like I started to say, in military applications of the Civil War, they issued paper cartridges. And paper cartridges look like this. And I'll give you a close-up of these as well. I make my own. A paper cartridge. Now what this is a tube of nitrated paper, think rolling papers for cigarettes, that is filled with gunpowder. It has a little bit of lubricant in it. The ball has been lubricated and then super glued onto that cartridge. This allows me to slide it just like this into that cylinder all the way down where the bullet will stop it. I then rotate it under and load it, push it down. Now I'll have to do the cap. So I do not have to carry the flask or the wads or stuff like that with me. This is all I have to carry in percussion caps to the field. And that's my usual way of carrying this gun. And when you see me loading it tomorrow for the shooting demonstration, it will be with pre-made cartridges. Another way that I carry it, and I have done in the past, is another type of pre-made cartridge. And this is one I discovered from Dixie Gun Works many years ago. If you don't want to make your own cartridges, you can use these. And what these are, Dixie Gun Works sells these. These are little yellow tubes of some sort of vinyl. I'm sure these were meant originally to be the end cap of something. But they sell them to you by different sizes, and this is the one that's listed for the for the Ruger Old Army, this yellow size. In here, I have a wad, and take my thumb, press it out. Now squeeze it, and up comes the ball. Except it's kind of cold right now, so these are a little stiff, so you just bear with me just a second. And I'll get it to come on up and out of there. There we go. Now, the tube has gunpowder already in it, okay? It has already loaded up with gunpowder. I pre-measured out of a flask, poured it in here, into the tube. Then I took a lubricated bullet, sat it in the top, pressed it down with my finger pressure till it's a little more than a nickel below the top. And then I took the Wonder Wad and put that in on top of that, making a cartridge. Now, all I got to do is just squeeze this and out come the parts. I then pour the powder in, push the Wonder Wad in, put the ball in, and load it. This takes the place of my flask. Still have to cap. But I can carry 2 full reloads in this little bitty pouch. And one on the gun means I've got 3 full loads, 15 rounds, so to speak. Plenty of bunny rabbits on a cool morning in February. Now all I got to do is cap, and I have a little short capper that I use for capping the cylinder, so I don't even have to carry a loose tin of caps rattling around. It makes for it to be very fluid and very easily transported. Now, in the next video, we're going to do actual shooting, and you're going to watch me load it, and I'm going to do all this loading right in front of you. This is an overview, so you understand the procedure. But the basic recap is, 2 basic schools here. There are Remingtons and there are Colts. Another 2 basic are brass frames and steel frames. Brass frames are not as strong as the steel frames and will wear out over time. Today's brass frames are much better than the ones I started out with and can be very good guns. You see a lot of them in cowboy action. They're normally cheaper in price. Okay? You may like the look of a brass frame. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay? And there's plenty of videos out there to explain it. Okay? Much better than this short little video. So we've got 2 kinds, Remington and Colts. We got brass frames and steel frames. We load them by either taking loose powder and ball and pouring it in, or by some form of pre-made cartridge, and then putting a percussion cap primer on the back of it. That's the basic of how we load it. Now, tomorrow, we're going to do the shooting. And then the final video will be tips and tricks, where I show you little tips and tricks to get more accuracy out of it. I hope this makes sense, guys. It's hard for me to take 30 years experience and what do you say in 5 or 10 minutes. I hope this is making sense. I'm Blackie for Shaman's Forge Bushcraft, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys. I'll be back with another video real soon.